It's amazing how much you start noticing all the little details when an election rolls around,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
especially in a local race like the one coming up for the Proviso Township High School's District 209 board.
For sure, especially when there's a slate like this 209 students first group that, kind of makes you want to take a closer look. And
Exactly. And one name that keeps popping up in all of this is Della Patterson,
uh-huh.
who's actually trying to get her third term on the board.
Wow, so we're going deep this time.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of stuff we dug up for this deep dive.
This is going to be good.
Just to give everyone an idea, we've got some really interesting opinions from this blog called 209 Students First.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
Then on the more official side, we pulled the filings from the Illinois State Board of Elections for two political committees, D209 Together and 209 Students First.
Right, makes sense.
Plus, we've got some background on a couple of local parties, the Maywood Forward Party and Maywood Together Party.
Okay, yeah, those are definitely connected.
And, just to remind everyone how much every vote matters.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We even took a look back at some past election results from the village of Maywood.
Yeah, because, remember back in 2023, Ramon Ray Williams, he won his seat as a Village of Maywood trustee
I remember that.
by just one vote.
It was insane.
Talk about a nail-biter.
Seriously.
No.
So, yeah, every vote really does count.
Absolutely.
This blog, we mentioned 209 Students First. They've got a really interesting take on it all.
Yeah, they're pretty funny.
It's almost like they're trying to decode the campaign, you know?
Yeah, what's the real story here?
Exactly. And one thing they point out is that at a recent forum, only 2 of the 4 Students First candidates actually showed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that definitely makes you wonder what's going on there.
For sure.
And then there's their campaign slogan, Better Plan, Brighter Future.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that plastered everywhere.
But the blog points out there's not really much detail about what that plan actually is.
Yeah, there's the beef.
Exactly. So the blog kind of runs with it and offers up these humorous interpretations.
Okay, well, I like where this is going.
Like, they joke that maybe the better plan involves bringing back these things called chat and choose.
Chat and choose. What are those?
They were apparently these super fancy meals that were paid for with public funds.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, like seriously over the top stuff.
Okay, so they're saying students first wants to bring back these lavish meals.
Well, the blog is playing with that idea. Yeah, maybe it's not literal, but it definitely highlights the lack of specifics.
Yeah, I see what they're doing there.
Sure. And then they have another funny one. They suggest maybe the better plan means renaming detention.
Oh, that's classic.
Like calling it leadership training or something like that.
Yeah, spin it positive.
Exactly. Or maybe the big plan is just to buy all the board members brand new iPads.
But not the students.
Well, that's the joke. Yeah, it's all pretty tongue-in-cheek, but it definitely makes you think.
For sure. And remember, this is all coming from Della Patterson.
Right. She's the one leading this 209 Students First slate.
And she's been around for a while, right? This is her third term if she wins.
That's right. She's not new to this.
Makes you wonder even more about some of this stuff.
It does. Okay, so speaking of Della Patterson,
Uh-oh.
we got to talk about this political committee called D209 Together.
Okay, yeah, I saw that name on some of the paperwork.
According to the Illinois State Board of Elections, this group was officially formed on Valentine's Day 2023.
How romantic, a Valentine's Day political committee.
Right. So who are the big players involved in D209 Together?
Well, the chairman was Rodney Alexander,
Okay.
but the treasurer was Della Patterson.
So Della Patterson was in charge of the money for this group.
That's what the filings say.
Interesting. So what happened to D209 Together? Did they just fade away?
Well, actually, there's this termination letter from the Illinois State Board of Elections dated February 28th, 2025.
This year?
Yeah, just a couple months ago. And basically it says they're shutting down D209 Together.
Why? What did they do?
Because get this, they haven't filed any of the required financial reports for a whole year.
A whole year.
Yeah, their last report was from April 2023.
That's a long time to just go silent.
It is, and there are consequences.
What kind of consequences?
Well, first of all, they owe a ton of money in fines for not filing those reports.
How much are we talking?
$8,600.
Whoa, that's a lot of money.
And the State Board of Elections makes it clear that this debt doesn't disappear just because the committee is terminated.
So what happens to that money?
Well, they specifically say in the letter that any successor committee could be held responsible.
A successor committee? What does that mean?
It's basically any new political committee that's got a lot of the same elements as the old one.
Like the same people?
Yeah, could be the same officers pursuing the same goals, even supporting the same candidate.
Even if it's for a different office.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be for the exact same position.
So it sounds like it could apply pretty broadly.
It could, and this ties into a really important part of Illinois election law.
Oh, no, what's this?
It's called ballot forfeiture, and there's a specific statute, 10 ILCS 5930.
Okay.
Basically what it says is that if a candidate has a political committee that owes fines to the State Board of Elections, that candidate can be kicked off the ballot.
Seriously, just for unpaid fines?
Yep, that's the potential consequence.
So, like, if I'm running for office and my committee messes up, I could lose my spot on the ballot.
That's what the law says.
Wow, that's intense.
State Board of Elections even makes a list of candidates whose committees have these unpaid penalties.
And what do they do with that list?
They send it to the local election authorities.
Yeah.
So they know who to keep an eye on.
Okay, so back to D209. Together, what was their financial situation before they went silent?
Well, their last report, the D2, which covers February 10th to March 31st of 2023, shows they had just over $4,000 in receipts.
Okay, not a ton of money.
No, but their expenditures were huge, $37,558.21.
They spent almost 10 times what they brought in.
Yeah, basically, which left them with a deficit of over $33,500.
That's rough.
Now, the report does say they got another $22,000 in contributions after March 31st, 2023.
So that would have helped?
A little, but even with that extra money, their cash on hand was still negative $11,518.21.
So they were still in the red.
Yep, and remember, on top of all that, they owe $8,600 in fines to the state.
Ouch.
And if you look on the State Board of Elections website, they actually list out all the unpaid fines.
And D209 Together is on there.
Oh, yeah. Multiple times, actually. The total comes to about $8,000.
So a little less than the termination letter says, but still a big problem.
Right. And all those fines are specifically for not filing their quarterly reports on time.
So just to be super clear, Della Patterson, who's running for her third term on the school board,
Right.
she was the treasurer of D209 Together,
Yeah.
which is now facing termination and owes a bunch of money in fines.
Yep.
And now there's this new political action committee called 209 Students First.
Interesting timing.
Right. So tell me about this new PAC.
Well, 209 Students First was formed on February 11th, 2025.
Very recently, then.
Yeah, and the chairman is Ramon Williams.
Okay.
And the treasurer is Rhea Williams.
Another William.
And this PAC is specifically supporting Candace Ross, Jerry Jenkins, and Pi Hernandez for the Proviso Township 209 School Board.
So a whole new PAC pops up right as the old one with Della Patterson's name on it is going down in flames.
It does make you wonder.
Is there any connection between these two groups other than Della Patterson running for office again?
Well, this brings us back to that whole successor committee thing.
Oh.
Some people are arguing that 209 Students First is basically a successor to D209 Together.
And why is that?
Mainly because Della Patterson is involved in both.
Yeah.
And they both want to get people elected to the D209 school district.
I see. So if they are considered a successor, what happens then?
Well, then those unpaid fines from D209 Together could become a problem for the new PAC.
And for Della Patterson?
Exactly. It could even affect whether she's allowed to be on the ballot.
Okay, so now let's talk about Ramon Ray Williams, the chairman of 209 Students First.
Oh, yeah, the one who won by one vote.
Right. He's also a Village of Maywood trustee.
Remember that crazy election?
It was wild. Just one vote after a recount. It's crazy how much every little thing matters.
It really does.
Okay, so what else do we know about Ramon Williams?
Well, he's connected to this group called the Maywood Together Party.
Okay.
It's a local party that was started in 2019.
Got it. And who's running that one?
The chair is Nathaniel Jorg Booker, and the treasurer is Antonio Sanchez.
All right, so where's the connection to Ramon Williams?
Well, his PAC 209 Students First specifically says that if they dissolve any leftover money, goes to Maywood Together.
Oh, interesting. So they've got plans for the money if they shut down.
They do, and it connects back to that whole ballot forfeiture thing we talked about.
Because if they're found to be a successor and the fines aren't paid, it could affect everyone involved.
Potentially even Della Patterson.
This is getting really complicated.
It is. There's a lot of moving parts.
Okay, so what about this Maywood Forward Party? Where does that fit in?
So the Maywood Forward Party is another local party, but they had some trouble with the State Board of Elections.
What kind of trouble?
Well, they were officially shut down on October 25th, 2024.
Last year.
Yeah. And it was because they didn't file their financial reports, and they had some unpaid fines, too.
How much did they owe?
$1,750.
Yeah.
But apparently they paid those later.
Okay, so who was running Maywood Forward?
The chair was Marcellus Wells, And the treasurer was Shakista Williams.
Wait, another Williams. Is this the same Williams from before?
No, this is different Williams.
Okay, so was Maywood Forward connected to any of the other groups we've talked about?
Actually, yeah. There was a formal complaint, filed a D4 complaint, that named both Maywood Forward and Maywood Together.
Whoa, what was that all about?
Basically, the complaint claimed that Maywood Together was a successor to Maywood Forward.
Oh, so kind of like the 209 Students First and D209 Together situation.
Exactly.
And what evidence did they have for that claim?
Well, they pointed out that there was a lot of overlap in terms of the people who were officers and candidates for both parties.
Give me an example.
Okay, so Marcellus Wells, who was the chair of Maywood Forward, is now running for Park District under the Maywood Together banner.
Oh, wow. So he switched sides.
And Shakista Williams, the treasurer of Maywood Forward. She ran for Maywood Library as part of the Maywood Together slate back in 2021.
So they were saying that even though Maywood Forward was shut down, the same people were still active, just under a different name.
That was the argument, yeah.
And they were concerned about how Maywood Forward was paying for their campaigns in 2023.
Yeah, they specifically asked where the money came from for things like their campaign office, printed materials, yard signs, even their website.
It sounds like they thought something fishy was going on.
They did. And they pointed out that this group called Friends of Nathaniel George Booker,
Who are they?
they're connected to Maywood Together.
Okay.
And they had financial activity in 2023, even though Maywood Together didn't have any candidates running that year.
So the complaint was suggesting that maybe this Friends of Nathaniel George Booker group was secretly funding Maywood Forward's campaigns.
That was the implication.
Yeah.
Which would be a violation of the rules.
And remember, Ramon Ray Williams, the chair of 209 Students First,
Yeah.
he was a candidate for Maywood trustee with Maywood Forward in 2023.
The same year they were supposedly being funded by this other group.
So he's directly tied to this whole Maywood Forward situation.
He is. And remember, Shakista Williams, the treasurer of Maywood Forward,
Yeah.
she was connected to Maywood Together back in 2021.
This is like a giant spider web of connection.
It really is. And to make it even more interesting, Maywood Together and Friends of Nathaniel George Booker didn't have any candidates on the ballot in 2023.
But they were still spending money.
Yeah,
Right.
according to their financial reports.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what they were spending it on.
It does. All right, so just to wrap things up, let's talk about Della Patterson one more time.
Okay.
So back during her second term on the D209 board, she was a key player in that big teacher strike.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one. It was a big deal.
It was. And she also worked closely with the former Superintendent James L. Henderson.
The one who the blog said had some questionable financial practices?
Exactly. The 209 Students First blog, they made some pretty pointed comments about things like those chat and choose.
Yeah. And they even hinted at some fancy gift exchanges happening at board meetings.
So yeah, Della Patterson's got a history with this district, and now she's leading this 209 Students First slate.
While her old political committee is facing termination and fines.
It's a lot for voters to consider.
Okay, so let's recap what we've learned in this deep dive.
Bye-bye.
We've got Della Patterson, who's running for another term on the school board.
Right.
She was the treasurer of D209 Together, which is getting shut down, and owes thousands of dollars in fines.
And there's a chance that 209 Students First could be considered a successor.
Right, and the chairman of 209 Students First, Ramon Williams,
Yeah.
he ran with Maywood Forward, which also got shut down and might have been funded improperly.
And on top of all that, there's this ballot forfeiture law that could prevent candidates from running if their committees have unpaid fines.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So what does all this mean for voters in the upcoming election?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is how connected all these people and groups are.
Yeah, it's a small world in local politics.
It is, and when you see a committee like D209 together having financial problems
Yeah.
and potentially breaking the rules.
It makes you wonder about the whole system.
Exactly, and it really highlights how important it is to look beyond just the names on the ballot.
Yeah, you got to do your research.
Find out who's supporting these candidates, where their money's coming from, what they've done in the past.
And remember, every vote counts.
Especially in a race like Ramon Williams's, where it came down to just one vote.
Exactly. So if you want to learn more about any of this,
The best place to go is the Illinois State Board of Elections website.
they've got all the official filings and financial records.
It's all public information, and it's really the best way to get the full story.
Great advice. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
You got it. Always happy to dig into the details.
And for all our listeners, don't forget to get out there and vote.
Your vote matters.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.